Someone make it make sense.
I'll be a couple.
Hello. So this is crazy. What is going on? So here's what I've been doing, guys. I've been filming an orchid repot video for y'all for the members, and I had the East Idaho News live feed like pulled up with the sound on because I knew that they were just sort of waiting. I know there's a delay, and I figured as soon as the sound came on, I would just stop filming and I would come over and go live. And I just was waiting for that to happen. And like literally it never happened. And then I was like, what is going on? How long has it been? And then I looked at like the court TV and the East Idaho News and like, I don't know what's going on, but those feeds don't have like apparently any like cameras. Like there was no footage. So I don't know what the hell is happening. But this has things happening. So let me unmute it because things I'm out of the loop. I was just waiting for the sound so I could go live. I have no idea what's happening. But I will have a good working video for you all.
Some jury service and
Like,
just sort
why is it that no one else got like no one else have their cameras working? I just don't understand. Okay, so let me back it up a second.
because we're getting a little bit later start, I'll keep juror 3 after into the lunch hour and individually about whether it's really him versus his employer, and offer to write a letter if he needs one to his employer about the requirements of jury service and just sort of feel out that situation a little further, but we'll keep him on for right now. Please silence all phones. As I said, we are still missing one juror. As soon as those jurors I'll get here, we will proceed into the opening statements.
Judge, I did email the court staff about an individual, Brandon Boudreau, who would like to be present. He's in the courtroom currently. He has been noticed by the defendant back on March 6th as a potential witness. He has not been subpoenaed to date. He is here and would like to be present in the courtroom for the trial. I think that the court has previously allowed another witness that the defendant had also listed, reporter Nate Eaton, to be in this courtroom. The court had indicated that if these individuals were not subpoenaed, that the court would look at precluding them. It has been over a month since she has noticed him. He has not been subpoenaed. He is a victim in another case against this defendant. I'm asking that he be permitted to remain in the courtroom today.
All right, let me hear from the defendant.
Your Honor, our subpoenas were with OPDS, so I do not have any. We're looking for some confirmation for when those went out.
Well, is this a witness that is, first of all, have relevant information and likely to be called as a witness?
Yes.
What's the relevant information?
Oh boy.
There's several things, but
oh come on, Lori, get it together.
he will be called to talk about things that he was involved with my husband during that time.
Well, has the state interviewed this witness or potential witness?
Not with regards to this case. I don't know what he will be called to talk about things means. So I would like a little more information as to what the relevance is of this witness.
He has to have relevant information, which, as I've said, is testimony that makes a fact more likely or less likely. That's an issue in the case. So what fact would he testify about that make it more likely or less likely? Can you give me some sort of specific information that you would expect him to testify to?
Yes, Your Honor. His communications with my husband up to the date of his of this incident.
What would those communications be? And how are they not hearsay?
They're his communications with my husband. That's how they're not hearsay.
No.
And what type of communications?
Phone calls, text messages.
I meant what substance? Can you give me some idea of the relevant information that he would provide to the jury that would help them make a decision?
Without giving away my entire defense?
Well, we don't just get to call witnesses that, are going to testify about, we talked about the weather that day, you know, so you do need to give me some sort of information about what his anticipated testimony would be.
Well, his relevance in coming that day to do an intervention on me,
Okay.
the family.
Is this witness?
She's talking about her brother, Adam. Okay. She's talking about her brother, Adam. So first of all, she doesn't understand hearsay. So Elaine had trouble with this as well in the Duffy Heard trial. Lori has a little bit more of an excuse than Elaine does, but somebody's own statements can still be hearsay, right? Remember, we've talked about this so much. It's not like the game of telephone. Hearsay is a statement made outside of court, often for the truth of the matter asserted. So that's the point being, you have to call the witness to have them testify, right? So that the jury can judge their credibility. Otherwise, it's all just insane, right? Because it's like somebody could write I could write anything down, right? It's a statement that I've made, or I could send a text message to somebody. I could send it, right? And it could be completely fabricated. It could be true or not true, right? It's like, and then you want to get that sheet, like Lori or something, somebody wants to get that statement in, like a text message, and say it's not hearsay. The point being, you need to have them testify to it. And so she's trying to get the messages in. Oh my God. It's just.
Mr. Boudreau.
Also, Adam's awesome. Her brother.
Yes, he is, Your Honor.
Awesome.
All right, let's go on sidebar.
I assume she's talking about, okay, maybe she's talking about Brandon. Either way, it doesn't make a difference for the hearsay. I assume she's talking about Adam. Let me just back it up real quick and see, because I feel like the sound just sort of cut on mid thing. But I just know that Adam and Charles were in communication that day. Well, let me just see. Yeah, see, they're talking and there was no sound. Fuck.
Keep juror 3 after into the lawyer and offer to jury service. And
hi, Jeff.
just,
welcome.
As I said, we are proceeding into the opening statement.
Brandon Boudreau, who would like to be present. He's in the courtroom.
Okay,
currently.
never mind. Just take, sorry. So I'm sure she will have arguments as it pertains to Adam. So delete what I said. Take that and rewind it back. She is talking about Brandon Boudreau. I just didn't hear that because they were just getting the sound turned up. Okay, it's Brandon Boudreau that they're talking about. Okay, interesting. Same thing applies. But also, that is really something else that she wants to get his statements in, knowing that, like, right after she finishes with this trial, she's going straight into that trial for his attempted murder. If anyone's less familiar with this case, let me know if you have questions. But welcome, Jeff. Welcome, Iowa. I don't know what is going on, because why are all the other feeds don't have camera? Does anybody know? I was literally filming a repotting video waiting for the sound to come on. I had East Idaho News up and nothing happened. Does anybody know what is just long crime the only cameras in the courtroom? I mean, that seems impossible though. But also, Jeff, let me know if you want a custom command. I don't think you have one yet. So let me know if you do want a custom command. Oh, no sound yet.
Who has been sworn in and is answering questions from the witness stand. Therefore, it is important to remember that what is said by both the prosecutor and the defendant in opening statements and later in closing arguments is not evidence.
Great.
The purpose of an opening statement is to help you prepare for anticipated evidence. The state can proceed.
Okay. Before they start with opening, so why is it though, when I pulled up, I didn't hear anything come on East Idaho, and then I looked at Court TV and it was just the black screen. So am I missing something? Was my sound on mute? I mean, because I looked anyway, it just looked like I didn't see anything happening. So anywho, okay. So it is now opening statements for the state. Excellent.
Are you going to use, put a mic over there.
I guess I don't get the banner because I guess long crimes are good. That is hilarious.
So I'm going to need you to stay close to me the next couple days.
Okay.
Mel, too. She can't go to Utah. They're planking some kind of intervention, but want Mel out of the way, so I'm left alone. I need to come get the stuff at your house tomorrow and secure it. Lots to do. Thanks for standing by me. It's all coming to a head this week. I will be like Nephi, I am told.
Mm-hmm.
And so will you.
Nephi.
Lori Daybell, the woman seated over here, wrote this to her brother, Alex Cox, on July 9th of 2019, 2 days before they killed Charles Vallow. But to understand why this is so meaningful, why this is relevant, you have to understand the context. So let's talk about it.
Nephi's a big deal.
In July of 2019, Lori Vallow was married to Charles Vallow. Lori Vallow lived here in Arizona, Chandler. Charles Vallow lived in Texas. In July of 2019, Lori Daybell was Lori Vallow, married to Charles Vallow. In July of 2019, Lori Vallow wanted to be Lori Daybell, wife of Chad Daybell. And in July of 2019, Lori Vallow wanted to keep the same lifestyle that she had with Charles. And she could get all of this if Charles was dead. She could marry Chad Daybell and become Lori Daybell. She would get $1 million life insurance policy from Charles Vallow. She would get Social Security for herself and their son, JJ, as a child of a dead spouse. And all of this would be true if Charles Vallow was dead. So what about Nephi? Well, Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell, and Alex Cox all believed that those who disagreed with them were dark, possessed by evil spirits, sometimes called Z's or zombies. Sometimes they had names for these evil spirits like Ned.
Imagine if you're on this jury, first of all. So second of all, I appreciate, and I don't remember, okay, it might be worth actually doing, we could maybe do this tonight, going back and listening to the prosecution opening statements from Lori's trial. Because the thing that I appreciate, like my interpretation of the motive here was literally what she just said. People that disagreed with them. It's like, you know, the state in Idaho had like the sex, money, and what was it, power. They had like the theme. And I'm not saying that that's incorrect. It's kind of like with Murdoch, where they have like those ideas that they think are part of the motive. And I'm like, I'm not saying those are wrong, but like, I think there's more to it. And I would say that in this case, I would say I even maybe more so disagree with the motive offered by the state for this case, like for Lori and Chad in Idaho, because I really think it was just an excuse to get rid of people that disagree with them. Like it, you know, and it's clear because of the timing of when they would make these statements, they would change people's ratings. And it was really so juvenile and less pragmatic, right? Like if it was just like strategic about like, oh, I can get this benefit from this person, it was more strategic. They were acting like little children, and they would change somebody's rating at the drop of a hat, right? So it was just really just so immature and lacked like strategy. Like if they were really going for money and power, there's like better ways to do it. Anyway, so I just appreciate that she said that. I already think that she's doing a great job with bringing up Nephi from the get-go and bringing up the bit about when people disagreed with them. So,
Lori, Chad, and Alex used religion, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and a story of Nephi, a prophet, who was directed by the Holy Spirit to kill Laban, to obtain brass plates and secure the long-term prosperity of Nephi's descendants. Lori used this religion and the story of Nephi as justification to kill Charles Vallow, just like Nephi killed Laban. On July 9th of 2019, Lori Vallow invoked Nephi when she messaged Alex to provide them with that religious authority to kill Charles. After months of trying to get rid of him, they were finally ready to be like Nephi. So how did this begin? We go back to 2018. Lori Vallow met Chad Daybell. You will learn that in November of 2018, that Chad Daybell came to Arizona for a Preparing the People conference. And he and others stayed at Lori and Chad's house. Charles was actually out of town with JJ. Lori and Chad acted as if there was nothing between them, but nothing could be further from the truth. By January of 2019, Lori Vallow claimed that Charles Vallow was possessed by an evil spirit that she called Ned. You will see text messages where Lori and Alex refer to him as Ned. During this trial, you're going to hear from some women who initially were close in Lori's circle. These women will tell you they met her through the Preparing the People conference. They are spiritual women within the LDS church. And initially they found Lori's spirituality infectious. But the more they listened to Lori, the more they started to find concern with what she was saying. One of them called it red flags. Lori began saying things like she didn't need to repent, that she was beyond that. And you'll hear from these women that that goes against everything that their religion follows. Everyone must repent. You will hear from Serena Sharp that in March of 2019, she attended a girls' weekend with Lori and some other women. They went to the temple, they had lunch, they did volunteer activities, and then Lori asked them to do something a little unusual. She told them that her husband was possessed by an evil spirit, and she referred to that as Ned. She told them that Charles was no longer in his body. She asked them to come together and try to cast out this evil spirit. Serena will tell you that she didn't ask Lori what would happen to Charles if that evil spirit went. She only knew that she had said Charles was already gone. She didn't know if he would come back or his body would just die. Later that month, on March 26th of 2019, Alex Cox texted his sister, Lori Vallow, and said, quote, "Ned is still alive, just confirmed." Lori responded, "It's not Ned. It's a new one. Ned is gone. No one has seen him, right? Just talk to him, question mark." Alex said, "Correct. Charles' body is alive." "What did you learn, question mark?" And Lori responded, "A lot. Still working on it. We'll call you later." As the year went by, Lori and Alex became more determined to get rid of Charles Vallow's body, whatever they wanted to call him. You will hear from Christina Atwood that she attended a gathering on June 9th of 2019. Again with Lori and some close friends, but this time Alex Cox attended. This was the first time she had met him. Christina will tell you that she heard Alex say that he just wanted to kill Charles. In fact, she heard him say this a couple times. And she heard Lori say, in response, that she had been drugging Charles, crushing up JJ's pills and putting them in Charles's protein drinks. Christina will tell you she was so disturbed
there's
by
that
this,
part.
that she actually went and confronted Lori the next day and told her that if Charles ended up dead, she would have to go to the police. That's how disturbed she was. Now, Lori, of course, said it was all a joke. What else could she say? But 1 month later, Alex and Lori created that situation to be like Nephi and killed Charles. What about Charles? You're going to learn that Charles and Lori had been together for a long time. They had adopted one of Charles's family members' children, JJ. JJ was everything to Charles. JJ was the reason Charles and Lori were still together. You'll learn that Charles knew about Lori's beliefs, that he was called Nick or Ned or some name. You'll learn that Charles told a lot of people about this. And on February 26th of 2019, Charles made a big decision. He had $1 million life insurance policy, and his wife, Lori Vallow, had been the beneficiary. He changed it. He changed it to his sister, Kay Woodcock. You will learn he did not have to notify Lori about it, and she had no idea. You'll learn that Charles desperately wanted to bring Lori back to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You will learn that he was close with Lori's brother, Adam, and he was reaching out to him during this time period.
And that's the thing, right? The whole thing about the money. That's part of the reason for it. The reason I say that I don't get it, because she wasn't going to get that money, right? Like, yeah, people kill people for life insurance money all the time. Like, they shouldn't, but they do. But like, when you know that like the beneficiary's been changed, like, you know.
Adam will tell you that he himself had heard the defendant say things that were outside the LDS religion. That she was translated.
Long time no see, man.
Charles was possessed. He knew she was no longer following the LDS faith.
Crappy weather here.
Then, June 28th, Charles found out that Lori and Chad were having an affair. You will hear that he reached out to Lori about it, Chad's wife, and out to Adam Cox about it. Now, you're going to hear about a lot of these things because the police executed numerous search warrants. You're going to hear that they executed search warrants on cell phone records, cell tower records, and iCloud accounts. You're going to learn that an iCloud account is basically a service through Apple where you can store everything, photos,
I think they
emails,
probably know,
documents, whatever you want. This can be intentional, or sometimes it can be unintentional. Your phone or your computer may be saving items there without you even realizing it. You'll learn that for years, Lori Vallow had an iCloud account that was Lori for Style at iCloud.com. But after Charles learned about Chad Daybell on that June 28th, she created a new iCloud account, Lolly Time at iCloud account. Many of these text messages between Lori and others that you're going to hear about at trial were recovered from those two iCloud accounts. You're also going to learn about Charles's cell phone. The police eventually recovered it, and they were able to extract the data, look at the messages and things that had been in there. And you're going to learn about those text messages with Adam Cox from July 9th through the 11th.
There's Adam.
You're going to hear from Adam that they were talking about an intervention. That may be recording Lori, saying these things and taking those recordings to the stake president, or just confronting the stake president about it. They didn't have an exact plan, but on July 9th, Adam agreed to fly to Phoenix to help try to talk to his sister, talk to the stake president, get her back into this faith. Ultimately, Adam flew to Phoenix on the 10th, as did Charles. Adam will tell you that he actually, when he got his reservation on the 9th from Charles, reached out to his brother,
For the super
Alex.
chat. By the way, we have
to
memberships
stay with
now,
him.
my friend.
And Alex said, sure. You'll see phone records. They had a conversation about it. But when Adam flew into Phoenix on the 10th, remember, that's after that message by Lori that he needed to stay close to her. Adam tried texting his brother. Adam tried calling his brother. And Alex didn't respond. Adam didn't know that his brother Alex had been summoned to help his sister Lori be like Nephi.
This whole thing
That
is
it was
so
time to kill
crazy,
Charles.
guys. Here's the other thing. Adam didn't really come into the Idaho trial because they didn't really have a way to bring him in. And he's going to be testifying. And again, I feel like I kind of know Adam personally because I watch him all the time on him and Grunkle Rex's channel. And I was actually there when they first started. I was like, oh yeah, like he's just awesome. I love both of them so much. And like, anyway, but Adam was a huge factor with like, and I guess this is why, right? He was really a huge part of this Charles, like the Charles murder and just being involved there. And even the thing that sort of spurred Lori on, like the text messages, she even mentions in her interrogation that, you know, she saw those text messages or whatever that Adam and Charles have been texting. And, you know, because it was so Charles specific, right? Like none of that really came in for Idaho. But yeah, like Adam, the thing I was going to say though is Adam didn't find out about what fucking happened until like after the fact. And it was all weird. It was like, Lori said that Alex died of Lori said that Charles died of a heart attack or something. And like, and I'm sure we'll hear it in his testimony, but he told the story just recently on YouTube. But anyway, it's like, and then he like shows up and like Alex is there and he's like, what happened to your head? And then he's like, da da. And then like Alex like says that he shot him. And it's like, Lori said that it was a heart attack. And it's like, what the fuck? Anyway.
Messages from Lori to Alex about that intervention that she knew about and being like Nephi show that by the evening of July 9th of 2019, Lori knew that Charles was trying to have an intervention. In that text message, remember, she said they are trying to have an intervention. She knew it was Charles and others.
Mm-hmm.
She also told her brother he had to stay close for the next couple days because she knew that she was going to be seeing Charles on the 11th when he came over to pick up their son, JJ, to take him to school. She told him, it's all coming to a head this week. I will be like Nephi, I am told, and so will you. A few minutes after Lori had texted Alex that message on July 9th that they were going to be like Nephi, Alex called his sister Lori, and they talked for over 56 minutes, planning how they were going to get rid of Charles. Alex would stay close with his gun, and he and Lori would be like Nephi. July 10th of 2019 is a day before Charles was killed. We know from text messages that by 7:18 p.m., Alex was already at Lori's house. He brought a garbage bag with some clothes and an orange duffel bag with his .45 caliber handgun and 2 extra magazines of ammunition. He was prepared. We also know that the evening of July 10th, Charles sent a message to Lori letting her know that he would be over at 7:30 a.m. the next day to pick up JJ, to take him to school. Lori and Alex knew exactly when this murder would happen and where it would happen. They just had to make sure that Charles stayed in the house. You'll hear that on the evening of July 10th, Charles spent his last night alive on a date. He had been on several dating apps and appeared to be moving on. You will hear from his date, Nancy Jo, that she and Charles had met on an LDS dating site a few days before. You will hear that she had talked to him and texted him for hours. Sometimes they would talk for 3 hours on the phone. Nancy Jo will tell you that Charles told her about everything of his relationship, his wife's beliefs, everything that was going on. And he had told her about this change to the beneficiary of his life insurance. She will tell you it sounded like a lot of drama, but she still was interested and wanted to meet this person, and so they met that evening for dinner. She'll tell you that she understood on the 11th that Charles would be picking up his son, that he was actually going to meet a realtor about finding a place to rent here so he could be closer to JJ, and that he was going to try to get in touch with Adam to meet up. And then they were supposed to meet later in the day. She will also tell you that she actually told Charles, kind of joking, but in a way to end the drama, why don't you just tell Lori that you changed the life insurance policy so she knows it's not her? Nancy Jo will tell you the next day, she texted Charles, she called him, and she actually thought he had ghosted her. She didn't know he was dead until a few months later when she saw something on the news, photo of him, and actually learned that he had been killed on July 11th. So let's talk about July 11th. That morning, Lori Vallow was up early and she was texting with Chad Daybell. You'll know that we do not have those text messages. They're not saved in the iCloud, but we have them from the phone records. Alex was already at Lori's house with his gun, and everyone knew that Charles was a punctual person and would be there around 7:30 to pick up JJ so he could get to school. You're going to learn that, like many people, Charles had left his GPS data locating service on his phone. So that means when his phone is moving around, it was constantly
Location services, baby.
documenting with GPS the location
That's
of
right.
the phone.
That's right, it is.
During this trial, you're actually going to see this data mapped out. You'll be
Thank
able to
God.
see Charles come to the house,
Love it.
and then you're going to see his phone
Freaking love that shit.
leave with the defendant and what she does all day with it. What we know is that Charles arrived at Lori's house at about 7:35. He texted Adam Cox and told him that Alex, or Al, is here. You'll see from photos that Alex's truck was parked in the driveway. Adam responded, "Really, I wonder why he never called me back." Charles didn't respond to that. Adam then texted, "They're planning something." And Charles responded, "Absolutely."
That is so
Adam told
freaking.
Charles, "I was supposed to spend..."
That is so freaking eerie that they're planning something from Adam. That's why, to me, Adam is so crucial in this. Like, that is the fact that Adam sensed that. And if I recall, I'm sure we'll hear it in his meeting, he hadn't spoken to Lori in a while. And it's like, he knew, he just knew. If I recall correctly, it was because as soon as he learned that Alex was going there, it was like, that was enough. He was like, something's up, because the two of them had been acting weird, like Lori and Alex. Like, that is an intuition of like, something's going to happen. It's just really, it's intense.
Night at his house last night, she probably blocked that. Charles told Adam, "What you do is up to you." Adam then told Charles he was going to reach out to Alex and ask him to come get him and see what Alex would do. And in fact, he did text his brother. You'll learn that Charles read that text message from Adam, but he didn't respond. Adam sent one more text message to Charles at 7:49 a.m. on July 11th. He told him that he and his son were going to go play basketball at 8 p.m. to look for a specific church leader who was usually there and have a conversation with him. Charles Vallow never read that message, but you will learn that Lori and Alex did. Charles went to the front door of 5531 South Four Peaks Place, a house that he had rented for his wife, Lori Vallow, a house that he paid for. Charles would have had to knock on the door, alerting Lori and Alex that he was there.
Bobby, real quick, I'll just let you know. So I'm going through the opening statements. I plan tonight to go live again. I think I already have it scheduled. Maybe not. Maybe I don't. But I'm going to go live again tonight, and we're going to do a recap of the opening statements and then watch whatever witnesses they are able to do today. So don't worry if you miss anything. And additionally, we will also watch Alex's interview uh, at the police station, the Gilbert police station, and as well as I've got some other good stuff too. So we're going to do a bunch of stuff tonight. I think I've got it slated for 10. I just have to make sure I've got it actually scheduled on StreamYard. So do check back tonight if you miss anything, and you'll be all up to speed. But I'm so happy to see you again. We've missed you. Yay. Bobby's an OG squirrel, guys.
Put him out in
Bobby's
the
an OG
car.
squirrel.
And then Lori Vallow created the reason to keep Charles from just leaving with JJ. Lori Vallow wanted to stop this intervention. Lori Vallow wanted to stop Charles and Adam from trying to take her Temple Recommend away. Lori Vallow, who wanted to be Lori Daybell, and Lori Vallow, who wanted Charles's money. So Lori took Charles's cell phone, and she refused to give it back. Lori Vallow, or Lori Daybell, whatever name you want to call her by, is why Charles didn't just leave with
Lori
JJ that morning.
Vallow.
Lori Vallow is why Alex was able to shoot Charles. Lori Vallow is why Charles is dead.
Oh, crap.
I want to tell you a little bit about the scene, this house, so you can understand what's happening here. When you walk in the front door, there's a big room. It was empty, no furniture. There were mirrors on 2 of the walls, windows on a 3rd wall, and the 4th wall had doorways going into the kitchen and a hallway off to the bedrooms. This is where Charles Vallow was killed. This is where Alex Cox shot him 2 times. The first shot to Charles Vallow was to his chest. It exited out his back. Charles Vallow fell to the ground. He put his left hand to this wound, and blood transferred onto it. You'll hear from the medical examiner that this shot went through his heart, and that a person can take seconds to up to 2 minutes to die from that type of wound.
Awful.
You will hear that a person can still talk and move
Ugh.
after they're shot in the heart. And we know Charles was able to move since he put his dominant left hand on his chest and transferred that blood to his hand. You will see that. As Charles lay on the floor of 5531 South Four Peaks Place, Alex Cox stood at his feet and fired a second shot. That shot entered his abdomen, and it exited his left shoulder. The angle was significantly upward. Dr. Baumgartner, who is the medical examiner, will tell you that this wound was shored. You will learn that shored means that there was something hard behind that wound.
Right,
So
right.
when the bullet exited it, it caused a different tearing pattern than the other wound that exited Charles's back. It is this shored wound, this exit on Charles's left shoulder, that shows us that there was nothing accidental about this second shot. You will learn from the cell phone that at 7:49, Lori left Charles's house, or left her house with Charles's cell phone, his wallet, his rental car, and JJ and Tylee. She drove to Burger King, Walgreens, dropped JJ off at school before she and her daughter Tylee drove back to the house. During this time, while Lori is driving around in Charles's car with his phone, she spoke with her brother Alex twice. The first call was at 7:52 a.m., 3 minutes after she left. The second call was at 8:06 a.m., 17 minutes after she left. You will hear that when Alex and Lori are talking, neither of them had called 911 yet. In fact, you will hear that Alex didn't call 911 until 47 minutes after Lori left. Charles Vallow lay dead on the floor of that house for 47 minutes before he called 911. During this 47 minutes, Alex began staging the scene and making mistakes. You're going to learn that the
It's
police
just
found
like
a
so
bat,
many cases, right? This whole
a bat
thing.
that was located on the right side of
Even the
Charles,
scene, I
to
mean,
the north of his head. Like he had been holding it, and when he was shot and fell, it dropped,
Right.
it rolled up against one of the walls that had mirrors on it. What you're going to learn that is Alex forgot that Charles was left-handed. In fact, you're going to learn that Charles was a semi-professional baseball player. He pitched and he batted left-handed. So that bat was on the wrong side. Next, you're going to hear about an injury to Alex himself. Lori had told police that Charles hit Alex in the head with this bat before Alex shot Charles. Classic self-defense. But in all cases, we must look at the physical evidence because it doesn't lie. And the physical evidence doesn't have a bias or a memory loss. Sometimes it's the lack of physical evidence that doesn't lie. So again, we know that this room where Charles was shot had no furniture, mirrors, 2 walls. You'll learn that although Lori claimed that Charles hit Alex with that bat and then Alex shot him in self-defense, that Alex's gun had no blood transferred on it. Alex was allegedly struck in the head with a bat by a semi-professional baseball player. Doesn't go unconscious, and he never touches that injury. Pulls out a gun, is able to shoot this man twice, and then he takes the gun down a hallway and puts it into a room. Never apparently touching his head or this wound. And again, Lori says that Alex was hit with the bat in this room by Charles. But again, what we don't see is any blood on the floor. Charles strikes Alex in the head with a bat. They're grappling on the ground. There's not a single drop of blood on the ground in that room. There's pooling of blood around Charles as he lay there on the ground. There's not a drop of blood going down the hallway to where Alex put the gun. There's not a drop of blood in the room where Alex put that gun. There's not a drop of blood on the floor in the kitchen where Alex went to go wash his hands. There are no towels, sheets, clothing, napkins with blood on them, where Alex was holding his head and trying to stop this bleeding from this injury. You will see on body-worn camera, Alex Cox, who's on with 911, come out of the house. He will have a phone in one hand and his other hand up, and you will notice that he actually has a pair of sunglasses resting on the top of his head. You will see at some point, Alex sits down, and they ask him to move to another location. They talk to him for a while, and then you'll see him eventually touch his head a few times, and then he obtains a napkin or towel, something, and you'll see him rubbing his head.
I wonder whose head wound was "quote unquote" worse between him and Alex Murdoch.
Patting it.
The old staging
That is the only bloody item you will see.
or injury to the head.
Those sunglasses on Alex's head. He is struck in the head by a baseball player while grappling on the ground. He then pulls out a gun and shoots his brother, puts away this gun, deals with his injury, and yet those sunglasses are still right there on the top of his head. No blood on the floors, no blood on the gun, no damage to the mirrors, bat on the wrong side, a lack of physical evidence to help support this self-defense claim. Next, trajectory. The medical examiner will talk to you about the trajectory through Charles's body. The detectives are going to talk to you about the trajectory through the room. Dr. Baumgartner will tell you that the trajectory of that first shot to Charles, the one that went through his chest, through his heart, and out his back, was front to back and slightly downward. It will be less than an inch downward. The detectives will tell you that the bullet from that shot, actually, as it exited Charles's back, ended up across the room in the baseboard. They pulled it out and recovered it. Both of them will say that this shot is consistent with Charles being standing upright with a person in front of him. The gun could be slightly down, or his hand could cause that little bit of downward angle. Dr. Baumgartner will tell you that that second shot that entered Charles's abdomen and exited his left shoulder, that the trajectory of that shot was front to back and significantly upward, 13 inches upward. Dr. Baumgartner is also the one who will tell you about that shored wound. What you will hear from the detectives, though, is that when they found Charles on the ground, off to the side of his left shoulder was the other bullet on the ground, not embedded. They'll also tell you that when they finally moved Charles, they took his body away, they cleaned up the blood on the ground, and they noticed a defect in the flooring, in the wood, consistent with a bullet striking the ground. That defect was located where Charles's left shoulder had been. You will hear that both Dr. Baumgartner and the detectives found the trajectory. The wounds were consistent with Charles laying on the ground, Alex being at his feet when that second shot was fired. The physical evidence does not lie. Charles was on the ground when Alex Cox fired that second shot. The injuries to Charles, the location of the bullet strikes, the trajectory of the injuries both in Charles and in the house all show this was not self-defense. This was a staged murder scene. I told you that Lori Vallow left the house at 7:49 a.m., and we know this because of Charles Vallow's cell phone. The 911 call was placed at 8:36 a.m., 47 minutes later. The police arrived at 5531 South Four Peaks Place at about 8:41 a.m. Lori Vallow and her daughter Tylee returned to the house at 8:48 a.m. When the police first contacted Lori Vallow, they thought she had no idea that her husband was dead, that he'd been shot and killed. Initially, you will see body cam footage of an officer going up and just getting her information. Lori doesn't ask, why are all these police here? Why is there a fire truck here? Why is my brother sitting on the ground over there? Or is he okay? Instead, she comments about her neighbors. You'll learn that the police then pulled her aside to do what they call a death notification, to let her know that her husband was dead. Only to their surprise, she told them she knew she was there. So at this point, the police knew they needed to take her to the police station and question her.
I will just say that the moment where that footage where she's like makes that comment about the neighbors is just next level.
You'll learn that Lori Vallow was interviewed by the police. She was treated very kindly.
It reminds me so much of Wendy Adelson, honestly, like where, I don't know, just there's a similarity there. Like in a really inappropriate times, caring about how other people are judging you. Anyway.
Police asked her what happened. Lori Vallow told the police that she took Charles's cell phone. She admitted that she was the reason that Charles didn't just leave and take JJ to school. She told police in no uncertain terms that Charles was demanding his phone back, and she refused to give it back. She told the police that even as Charles screamed at her for his phone, she walked away from him, wouldn't give it to him. No matter what happened or what Charles said or did, she would not give his phone back to him. Lori told police that her daughter Tylee came out of the room during the screaming with a bat, that Charles took it away from Tylee, and Tylee fell on the ground, and she told Tylee to go out to the car with JJ. She still didn't return the phone. She told police that Alex came out, that he and Charles got into this scuffle with the bat, that Charles hit him in the head with the bat. She still didn't give Charles back the phone. What she did instead was take his phone and go around that wall into the kitchen. Left the situation. Time to let brother Alex be Nephi. While she's in the kitchen, she said she heard the gunshot, came out, saw Charles on the ground, and her brother standing at Charles's feet. Then she told the police she left. You'll learn that the police actually had no idea that Lori still had Charles's phone. Even when they're interviewing her, she still had it. Police are processing the house, looking for it. Where is it? I can't find it. Later in the afternoon, you'll hear that the police actually called Lori and Alex and asked them to come back to the scene. And when Lori arrived, they asked her, told her they couldn't find Charles's phone. And she told the detective that she found the phone in the car. Found it in the car. She gave Charles's phone to Detective Enclan and then provided her with Charles's PIN number to get into the phone. You'll learn that after those interviews in the morning, Lori and Alex went back to Alex's house in Santan. And there they went through Charles's phone. You'll learn that Alex actually took photos of some of the messages between Charles and Adam, including Adam's flight reservations. And he later sent those to his sister, Lori. July 11th. Lori didn't tell any of Charles's family he was dead.
She didn't tell Adam that Charles was dead. She certainly knows they had been talking.
Right.
The next day, Lori texted Charles's sons from his prior marriage and told them, "Your dad is dead."
Right.
Charles's sons reached out to their Aunt Kay about this, and you'll learn that Kay and her husband had to Google this, see if it was true.
Crazy.
They found out
I mean, boy, wait
Charles
a
had been shot.
dude. Candace, welcome.
So what about the money? That life insurance policy. Charles Vallow had $1 million life insurance policy. When he got it, his wife, Lori Vallow, was the beneficiary. We know that Charles died on a Thursday, July 11th. That next Monday, July 15th, Lori Vallow called Banner Life Insurance. The call was recorded and you will hear it. She told the agent that Charles had been accidentally shot. It was an accident. And that she was the beneficiary. Both of those statements are not correct. There was nothing accidental about that shooting, and she was not the beneficiary. 3 days later, on July 18th, Lori Vallow learned that she was not the beneficiary. Banner Life Insurance could not and would not tell her who Charles had changed it to. But Lori was angry about it. And you're going to learn that on July 18th of 2019, there's another very important text message in this case. The first one on July 9th between Lori and Alex when they discussed being like Nephi. And on July 18th, 7 days after Lori and Alex killed Charles and Lori learned she is not getting $1 million life insurance policy, she sends a message to Chad Daybell. Quote, "So I talked to the insurance company. He changed it in March. So it was probably Ned before we got rid of him. You can't tell me who, of course, but it's done. I'll still get $4,000 a month from SS." In this text message, Lori tells Chad that it was probably Ned, that evil spirit inhabiting Charles's body, that changed the life insurance policy before they got rid of him, before they killed him. After Lori found out that she was not the beneficiary, she was so angry that she actually went through Charles's laptop, found the beneficiary change form, sent photos of that to Chad, and she also confronted Kay about it. The $1 million she had expected to get was gone, but as Lori told Chad on the 18th, she was still going to get money from the death of Charles. Lori knew already that a month before going to see Social Security, how much money she would get for JJ and for herself as a caregiver as a result of Charles being killed. $4,000 a month. Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence in this case is going to show you that Lori Vallow, Daybell, conspired with her brother, Alex Cox, to kill her husband, Charles Vallow. When Charles let Lori know he was coming into town, she quickly got the pieces into place. Alex came to her house with a gun. Lori created the way to keep Charles inside the house so that Alex and she could be like Nephi, to kill Charles Vallow to better at least her life so she could be with Chad and she could live off that life insurance policy. As we go through this trial, you will see photos of Charles's injury, photos of the crime scene, and hear testimony that will prove that this was not self-defense. As we go through this trial, you'll be provided with phone calls, emails, text messages, and hear testimony that lays out the motive for this murder, money, and Chad Daybell. You will see text messages and hear from people who Lori trusted and who were later pushed away, people who really don't want to be part of this trial, but were pulled into it by this defendant and her desire to get rid of Charles to be with Chad. People who heard Lori for months saying Charles was gone, possessed. People who will establish that this murder was premeditated. You will hear text messages from July 9th by Lori to her brother, Alex Cox, that he had to stay near her, that it was all coming to a head, and she would be like Nephi, and so would he. A justified killing, just like the prophet. And later, the text message to Chad where she told him that Charles changed the life insurance policy before they got rid of Ned.
Ned.
Confession by Lori of how religion and money were twisted to justify Charles's murder. At the end of this trial, the state will come to you and ask you to hold the defendant responsible for the death of Charles Vallow and find her guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Thank you.
Wow, very short. Very concise. Very good. I thought it was good.
All right. Will the defendant be giving an opening statement? Okay, because of the lunch hour, your opening statement will start after lunch. I'm going to excuse the jury for lunch. I'm going to ask juror 3 to stay back. I need to talk to you about something. Please remember the admonition,
Okay.
jurors. We'll see you.
We're gonna have a break. I just have to say a couple things. So first of all, I stand corrected about the life insurance money. I thought that she had learned about the life insurance money prior to the death. But no, she learned after the fact. So I guess, therefore, maybe I was being a little bit too critical of the state of Idaho when they put so much importance on the money. I guess you can still say that was still in the running because of the fact that she thought she was going to get that money. So I retract that statement. Just want to correct that for the record. I'm going to go ahead and mute this and go current here, even though I know they're supposed to start back up at 5. So we've got these people. So second of all, I want to say thank you to you guys who are here, because apparently everybody is streaming this. I didn't expect that, because there weren't that many channels, at least that I see, that have been covering this, whether it's pre-trial or the Idaho trial or following it prior to the trials. And I didn't expect it. And it really is interesting to me that now I was just looking, and it's like channels who have never heard even mention this case, like everybody's going live with this, and it's like, wow, I thought that literally I would be one of the only channels with actually a person besides just the court feed. So that's interesting. So I appreciate you guys being here. And what else was I going to say? Oh, additionally, I do have the members only orchid repot video. I will be working on that. I just filmed that right before this. And also I've made some major improvements to the Never Have I Ever for the next members only live stream with that. I was thinking about that earlier today, and I have some ideas to make it a lot more streamlined and more fun. And so that's really exciting, and we can look forward to that as well. So they're playing, we've watched all this, by the way, they're playing this footage of him. So what I have pulled up actually that we will watch while we're waiting for Lori's opening statement is we're going to watch some of the Alex Cox law enforcement interview, because that's especially relevant here. So I have that queued up and ready to go. And I feel like I have another announcement. You're watching Gigi on Law and Crime. You mean like Pretty Lies and Alibis? Because they didn't have anybody, unless you're talking about in between or whatever. Oh, how cute. Did you get an orchid, Iowa? That's so funny, because we've talked about this, and Iowa lives over 100 miles to the closest store. And I think my impression was she thought she would never ever find an orchid or be able to find one. That's so interesting. Did you get yourself an orchid? Okay. I love Gigi. I do love Gigi. And Gigi does, Gigi has followed this case since day one. So she's definitely one of the authoritative. I didn't know she was providing commentary though. So that makes total sense. But yeah, there's just a ton of, oh, that's awesome. It's funny because during Murdoch, she was their correspondent. That's what really, I thought, put her on the map, with Law and Crime. She was their boots on the ground. She was literally their correspondent. So that's really funny. But I'm glad she's getting another opportunity there. Yeah, this case is definitely one of her babies, if not her actual baby. You didn't get one? Why? Oh no. Do they not look good? They did that. Maybe they weren't in good shape, because I know sometimes that's the case, right? Gotcha. Right. One of these days you might change your mind and you'll be like, I got an orchid. Before I had orchids, I had no plants. I was literally every time I had a plant, I killed it. Not on purpose, obviously. But so my thing was I will never have plants, just they die. And so, but yeah, even I ended up where I'm at. So, yeah, I freaking love Gigi, she's definitely an OG resource on this case. That's really was my go-to. And actually it's funny, around the time of Murdoch, she was also that was going on. And so there was a lot going on with Lori and Chad. And I remember they were like overlapping, and that was pretty insane. So did I have another announcement? Yes, we did have a members only live last night with the trivia. I feel like there was another announcement that I had. Anyway, so what we will do now, though, is we will watch some of Alex Cox's interview and watch as much as we can before Lori graces us with her presence. And yes, we will also tonight, like I said, have a recap because I plan to cover her opening statement. I'm not going to be able to stay for the witnesses, but we will cover those tonight, as well as we'll go back over the opening statements and some other things as well. So what I will do is I'll just leave this muted while I pull up the other one. We'll do that, and then we'll check back in. So okay. So this is July 11th, 2019, Chandler Police Department. It's very still. I think early too.
I sit a lot, like I'm sitting in the car, driving around, so I want to stand a lot of times, but sometimes it's just too hard to write and stand.
Wow. It's very interesting. I've watched this before, but it's been a while. And it's very interesting the way he's sitting there, because you don't often see that type of stillness from people in this room, regardless of why they're in the room. And also with his arms like that on the table, very interesting. Were you able to actually picture for it? So are they going to do anything? If you literally just sitting there not moving, that's crazy. Holy mackerel.
Oh, right here.
I'm all set, Robert.
Okay.
If you're good.
Yep, I'm good. The only thing is, the
Rob
what he's using
Okay.
to clean his head. Other than that, this is all his property.
Okay.
I did call a night detective to have a
Photograph, you did?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I did not.
If you could have, call one for
Yeah,
the
I'll do
interview
that right now.
downstairs, thank you.
bet. Are we still on pot?
I think they were gonna clear it, but I have my radio off. All right, Alexander, my name's Nate Moffitt, I'm a detective, police department. I wanted to walk through what
Yes.
happened today.
His name is what? I think
Are you off? All right, Alexander, my name's Nate Moffitt, I'm a detective, police department. I wanted to walk through what
Yes.
happened today. Let me just write a couple things down.
It's not Rob. Rob's
So-
the prosecutor.
Are you still living out on
Yep.
Cherie Street?
Yep.
Okay, so.
That's really funny. You had a grapefruit tree and it didn't make any grapefruit. Wow.
Are you working right now?
I'm off this week.
Okay, where do you work at? What do you do for them?
I'm driving a truck. Mostly hauling hazardous waste.
Okay, what's the cell phone number for you?
I'm going to skip ahead through some of this basic information.
Happened. Patrol kind of, you brought,
Okay,
or
here we go.
the officer that talked to you out there, it kind of turns into a phone game. So, you know what I mean? When
Oh,
they,
I know what the other announcement I was going to say was. I know for anyone who was there this morning at the members only live, I said I was going to come back in a few minutes with Tylee's interview, because I was like, oh, I haven't watched Tylee's interview in such a long time. But well, in case anyone's wondering why I didn't come back, I've pretty forgotten that her interview is like 2.5 hours of like literally nothing, and then like 4 minutes or something of them coming in and getting her basic information, and that's like literally it. So I was like, yeah, that's and so anyway, so that's why, in case anyone was like, oh yeah, Tylee's interview, and that makes sense because they can't have any of that for a minor, right? So so that's all they have. And so she's just sitting there, and it's really sad. But in terms of like hearing what her, what she says happened, that doesn't really happen there. So anyway, that's why we didn't come back with that. But then I was like, oh, and then it dawned on me, I was like, we should totally watch Alex. So that's what we're doing now.
they go, yeah, this is what he says, but they're kind of rambling through it real fast. And same with your sister. Your sister's name is Lori or Lauren?
Lori.
Lori. Okay.
Like Wendy.
So the big thing that I want to do is just make sure that we have all the details accurate and factual. So, because kind of some of the information we got from patrol didn't really match up what Lori told us compared to. So
why am I not surprised?
Walk me through what happened today.
Well, I stayed the night at my sister's.
Okay.
We were planning to go do something fun day. We hadn't really decided. I was thinking maybe I was going to take her to the range.
Okay.
Or go do something.
Okay.
I don't know, take JD to some water park or movies or whatever. So I stayed there last night, and this morning Charles showed up, and I don't know what started it.
And Charles is your brother-in-law. He and Lori are married.
Yes.
Okay.
So he showed up.
I just want to point something out real quick. Already there's a problem, because he's saying that the reason he was there was to do something fun, right? Well, what Lori told, and we've watched this recently, it's on the playlist, what Lori told law enforcement was that the reason he was there is because Lori was concerned about Charles's temper or what have you, whenever it was time to like transfer the kids over. And especially when it came to like picking up JJ and taking him to school or whatever. And so she says that she had him there basically for safety. That's what she says. I don't even think she says anything about doing anything fun like that at all. It's literally about safety. And her entire thing is like making Charles out to be the bad guy, right? So this is, they really could have done better, right? The two of them could have done better to at least agree on a story, even just part of a story. Yeah, and it was a school day. Exactly. Great point, Iowa.
He was following her and yelling. And then I got between them. And then Tylee came out with her bat. And I had separated for a minute. And then my sister walked around me there in the living room. And then Charles was following Lori and yelling. And Tylee told him to get back. She took her bat like that and shoved him, and they took the bat away. And I said, what are you doing? And I got between them, and then he hit me. And I just went down, and when I got up, he was still yelling. And so I went into the bedroom where I was staying, grabbed my gun, and I came back.
Okay.
And told him to put the gun down, or the bat down. And he came at me and was saying, what are you gonna do? Like that, and come to me with the bat. I said, put it down. He wouldn't. He came at me, so.
Okay.
I just have to say a couple things real quick too. It's so funny because I always think about the similarities between Lori and Wendy. It just now dawned on me the same thing with the brother. I don't know how I didn't make that connection before. Like having a brother who will like do your bidding. And the way I just thought of it is because I was like, man, I was just listening to this thinking, if he was still alive, I wonder if he would have like flipped on her. And then I'm like, oh my God, it's just like Charlie and Wendy. And then I'm like, oh my God, that's even weirder. That's even weirder. When it's like literally the brother has nothing to benefit at all. Only the sister does. And like the brother and sister. Now I will say Charlie and Wendy did a much better job getting their story together, obviously, compared to what we've already heard. I mean, that right there is already problematic. But anyway, isn't that wild? So I'm going to back it up just a second because I was making that realization and like my brain was like, whoa.
And me, and was saying,
right?
What are you going to do? Like that, and come to me with the bat. I said, put it down. He wouldn't. He came at me, so.
Okay. So when that argument first started between Lori and Charles,
Yeah.
where in the house were they?
I don't know.
Okay. Where did you first?
I was in my bedroom.
Okay, so you were in your
Room I was
bedroom
staying
and you heard the argument.
when they came right towards me.
Okay, so they were coming down the hallway towards the bedroom?
Yes.
Okay, so you hear the argument, you step out, what's the first thing that you see?
Charles chasing after Lori and yelling.
Okay. Had Tylee already gotten the bat? Did he already have the bat? Okay.
Charles
So
chasing
Charles
after
is
Lori.
coming towards Lori,
He's
they're coming
coming
your
towards
way.
Lori, and I shoved him back.
Okay,
I said, "What are you doing?" Because he's coming at her aggressively.
Okay.
He's a big dude, so he's not gonna hurt my sister.
okay. So he's coming at her.
Yeah.
And you shoved him back.
Yeah.
What happened right after that?
He,
And I'm sorry to interrupt
he
you.
got back up and comes right to me, doesn't look at me, and continues to yell at Lori.
Okay.
So he's maybe this far away.
Are you in the hallway of the house or where are you?
Right close to the doorway
The,
of that bedroom.
He
of the bedroom you were staying?
seems very programmed. And here's what I mean. He's not even thinking things through logically. I feel like he's like I was going to say a zombie, and I didn't even mean that like because of the whole thing with Lori and Chad and the zombies. He literally has just a flat affect. It's really unusual. And it's like he's not even thinking this through or like thinking, there's no memory recall. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yes.
Okay. So you're right near the bedroom?
Yes.
Okay.
So then, I don't remember why, he backed up, and then my sister came around behind me, and they ended up in the living room, and then while they're on the way to the living room, Tylee comes out of her bedroom, which is adjacent to the one I was staying in,
Okay.
with her bat,
Okay.
yelling at Charles. Actually, she was behind Charles at first, and then she got around in front of him in the living room.
Okay. So he then went back towards the living room
Yes,
after
back in
after
the-
you shoved him. Did he fall to the ground when you shoved him?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so he falls to the ground, he gets back up, you're blocking between him and Lori.
Yes, yes,
And he basically is talking past you, still yelling at Lori.
yes.
What's he
exactly.
saying?
I don't remember.
Okay. So as you're standing there between them, what happened right after that? Is that when Tylee came out with her bat?
No, he backed up.
Okay,
He yelled something, and then he backed up, and then Lori went by me.
It is all good, official. It's all good. I don't know why you feel yucky. Are you saying you feel yucky because of Zach Hughes?
And around me in the hallway.
Mhm.
So he backed up, I cleared the doorway. So then she came around, and then Charles was behind her, pursuing her again aggressively.
okay,
Tylee came out, yelling with the bat.
okay. And are you guys in the living room then or still in the hallway?
It starts in the hallway and then goes to the living room.
Okay,
So Tylee gets around him in the living room, he stops. Tylee goes around to the front of him, tells him to back off.
what I find it easiest to do in situations like this is to kind of draw like
Yeah.
a rough
Yeah.
floor plan.
Sure. So we'll make this the living room. All right, and then this is the hallway,
Okay,
and then this is the kitchen. So Tylee's bedroom is here, my bedroom is here, and then the living room is here.
okay, we just put living room on there, so I know, and then you said that's kitchen,
Yeah,
and then
so the doorway's here.
okay, is this area of the house where all of this incident was focused
Yes.
at? Okay,
And then there's another bedroom here. This is JJ's bedroom.
okay. So do you first get involved when they're down by your room?
They come all the way she comes into the room, and he comes right here, and I stopped him right here.
Okay, so she came into your room? Okay, so she comes into your room, he's coming at her
Yeah.
aggressively, and
Yeah.
that's when you pushed him?
Yep.
So you push him down?
Yep.
And then he gets back up?
Yep.
And,
And then he yells, and then he backs up,
okay,
and then Lori goes around him, and they're still going at it.
okay,
And then Tylee comes out when she hears what's going on. She has her bat.
okay. Is it a metal bat?
Yeah, it's a
Plastic
little
bat?
aluminum bat.
Okay,
So she comes at him because she's tiny, so that's like her thing. She doesn't have anything, but she wants to help defend her mom.
okay.
So she comes at him, and then when
And they've already moved back
Right,
towards the
so
living
they're
room.
going this way.
Okay,
So Lori's here, Tylee's here, Charles is here. I'm here. Tylee goes at him with the bat.
Lori that doesn't make any sense.
Then
He's saying that
he
Tylee
takes
wants
the
to
bat
defend
away
her
from
mom.
her. and I stepped
But
towards
Lori
him and
said
he
that
turned around.
Kylie was the one who was needing help
Cracked me.
when Alex stepped in.
Is that foot injury that's
Yes.
caused on your head? Okay,
Well, there was some shoving first and I got spun around
okay,
and then popped. So I go back here, grab my gun, I come back out. He's still yelling and threatening me.
okay,
And then, so I was standing here and he was there.
okay. So you're standing right there, he's right here.
He's there.
And you said, what happened when you came out with the gun?
I said, put that bat down. He's like, what are you gonna do? So you're gonna threaten me? I was like, no, I'm just gonna defend myself. So you put that bat down. He goes, what are you gonna do like that? And he came at me
Okay,
and he'd already hit me in the head.
okay. So he came at you at the bat. What
Yes.
was he doing with the bat when he came at you?
It was in his right hand like this.
Okay, so he's holding it low and he's coming at you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Y'all hear that? He said
Um,
right hand.
So you gave him,
Fuck.
how many times would you say you told him to like put the bat down?
Once?
Once? Okay. And then he started advancing towards you?
Yes.
How many shots did you fire?
I don't know, a couple.
Okay. Were Tylee and your sister,
I didn't see him, so I don't know where
Okay.
they were.
where's JJ at during all this?
He's already out in the car.
Okay, so he's sitting out in the
Yeah,
car.
I think.
Okay. But you,
By
as
the
far
way,
as
guys,
you think or
I had one
understand,
prime.
you're not sure where they were.
Not
Correct.
there yet.
He's in the corner of the living
Yeah,
room.
they were no longer in the room
Okay,
when I come back out.
okay. So they're out of the room, so
Yeah.
it's just you and him.
Yes.
And he basically comes at you with the bat.
Yeah.
You tell him to put it down.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
And what'd you tell him?
I didn't say anything. He's coming at me and I'm holding the gun.
Okay,
If you're gonna attack someone with a gun, you gotta be ready for the repercussions.
yeah. So I just wanna make sure, cause
Yeah.
he basically, you had said earlier that he had the bat.
Yeah.
And he asked like, what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
And you had already told him to put the bat down, and then he just came at you
Yeah.
and you shot him.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're thinking a couple times?
It was more than one shot.
Okay. So more than one shot. What kind of gun was it?
45.
Okay. What make?
It's a Springfield XDM,
Okay. So it's an XDM 45.
Yeah.
What type of ammo were you carrying in? Do you know?
just standard.
Like full metal jacket?
Yeah.
Target shooting? Okay.
Yeah.
So you fire a couple times.
Yeah.
You don't know where they're at.
They're gone.
They're gone. What happened right after that?
Right after that, I went to the kitchen and rinsed my hands off because I had blood on the back of my head. And then I went back into the room and put the gun down and grabbed my phone. And then went back into the kitchen and called 911.
Okay. And then, did you see your sister and Tylee again? Did they come back in or not?
Not till they drove up.
Okay. Then they drove up here?
Yeah.
Okay,
When they drove up outside.
gotcha.
Lori's up in just a couple of minutes.
What's going on with Charles and Lori? I mean, does he live there?
No.
Okay, so where's he living now?
He lives in Houston.
Okay. For work, or are they separated, or?
Separated and for work.
Okay, so both. How long
They
have they been
split up,
separated?
January.
Okay, so 6 months or so, 6, 7 months.
Yeah, he's had some pretty erratic behavior since that split up.
Okay,
He came and threatened me and Tylee at my house.
Guys, it's time.
February,
It's
March,
time.
whatever.
okay.
And there
It's
was a
time.
confrontation.
Hang on. Let me switch it over. It's time. We're live.
Present. The jury is not present. We ready to bring in the,
All right, here we go, guys. Here we
Yes,
go.
Your Honor.
all right. Let's bring in the jury.
Well,
Bring the jury. Bring the jury. Bring the jury.
a double whammy on that one. Here we go. Lori's up, guys. Holy shit. Holy shit. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is insane. I just things you never thought you'd see in trial, right? Fuck.
All rise for the jury.
No kidding. Do you guys think the state's going to have to object? I think they. How many objections? Let's take the vote. How many objections do you guys think? I'm going to say three. Three objections. Is my guess.
All right, the jury is now present. Please be seated. All right, the defendant can proceed with her opening statement.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I have been charged with a crime, a serious crime. And the only question here is, did I commit this crime? Conspiracy. Conspiracy is an agreement between two or more people to commit a crime. Okay, so you see, okay. There has to be an agreement. There has to be a plan. The evidence in this case will show that Charles Vallow and I got married in February 2006. It will show that it was my fourth marriage and Charles' third marriage. At that time, we each had 2 children. I had Colby, who was 9, and Tylee, who was 3. Charles had Cole, who was also 9, and Zach, who was 7. The evidence will show that our family moved from Austin, Texas to Chandler, Arizona in 2009. The evidence will show that Charles and I adopted our great nephew, JJ, who was born in 2012. It will also show that Charles and I were married for over 13 years and were raising 5 children. The evidence will show that I was a licensed cosmetologist and worked as a hairstylist for 20 years while we lived in Austin, Texas. The evidence will show that Charles was a licensed life insurance salesman and worked as an independent contractor, selling life insurance policies and annuities, and owned his own business. The evidence will show that Charles and I purchased life insurance policies early in our marriage, and Charles had them issued to the maximum amount possible to each of us. The evidence will show that Charles was 17 years older than me, and that because of Charles' age and an issue that he had with high blood pressure, the maximum amount of life insurance that could be approved for Charles was $1 million. The maximum amount of life insurance that I could be approved for because of my age and my health was $2 million.
Interesting.
The evidence will show that throughout our 13-year marriage, that we always had life insurance policies. When a 10-year policy lapsed, Charles would shop for another company who would approve us for the maximum amount of life insurance. The evidence will show that this was Charles' job. This is what he did. I helped him in this business, and this is what he did. The evidence will show that in 2016, Charles repurchased a new $2 million life insurance policy on me, and he was the sole beneficiary. The evidence will show that Charles and I had a happy marriage for 13 years, that he was, in fact, a baseball player, and that he played high school, college ball, and AAA ball, and that he was, in fact, a left-handed pitcher, a southpaw, they call him, but he was a right-handed batter, as could be attested to by anybody who knew Charles well and his high school baseball coach, Greg Davis. The evidence will show that Tylee was, and in 2014, our family moved from Chandler, Arizona to Kauai, Hawaii. We lived there for 3.5 years and returned to Chandler in 2017. The evidence will show that Tylee was 3 years old when Charles and I got married, and that when she became a teenager, the relationship between Tylee and her stepfather, Charles, became so difficult that Tylee and Charles had to seek a therapist, a family therapist, to stop them from fighting. The evidence will show that together, Charles and Tylee met with this therapist after we moved back to the mainland in 2017. The evidence evidence will show that in April of 2018, Tylee's biological father passed away from a heart attack. And at that time, Charles called Social Security and made an appointment at the Social
I'm
Security
going to
office.
object to hearsay.
All right, objection number one. There we go, guys. Y'all.
It will show that we did get Social Security for Tylee for her deceased father until she was 18 years old, and she was 15 years old at the time. The evidence will show that Charles and Tylee's fighting increased greatly in January of 2019 when Charles and I temporarily separated. The evidence will show that several people witnessed these terrible arguments between Tylee and Charles that increased to physical in 2019. Charles and Tylee had major increasing arguments, two in February of 2019, one of March in 2019, which was captured on video, one in May of 2019, one in June of 2019, and then the worst of all in July 2019. The evidence will show that in March of 2019, Charles pulled JJ out of his special school and moved him to Houston, Texas, while we were temporarily separated. Tylee and I then joined Charles and JJ in Texas in April 2019 to reconcile. The evidence will show that JJ was diagnosed with severe autism when he was 3 years old while we lived in Hawaii.
You're going to get into the drugs?
The evidence will show that for 2 years, JJ was attending a school in Gilbert, Arizona, a special school for children with autism. It's called Lauren's Life Academy.
I hope she doesn't.
The evidence will show that in June of 2019, in JJ's best interest, Tylee, JJ, and I moved back to Chandler, Arizona to re-enroll JJ back in Lauren's Life Academy since he had a difficult time with the Houston, Texas schools with no services for his autism. The evidence will show that Charles and I agreed it was in JJ's best interest to be in school where more services were available to him, so Charles and I rented a house here in Chandler. On the day in question, July 11th, 2019, Charles and I were renting 2 houses, one in Houston, Texas, where he mainly resided, and one in Chandler, Arizona, where I resided with our 2 minor children, Tylee and JJ. By this time, our 3 older boys, Colby, Cole, and Zach, were adults and not living at home any longer. The evidence will show that during the months of June and July, that my husband, Charles Vallow, began to send me threatening text messages. These messages were seen by my sister Summer, and that worried her. The evidence will show that Charles insisted on flying into Phoenix on July 10th. As we've heard from the state. The evidence will show that I advised Charles that he could not stay with us at the Chandler house because he could not get along with Tylee, and I did not want them to get into another fight like they had 3 weeks prior. The evidence will show that it was ultimately decided between Charles and I on text messages that he would stay in a hotel because he traveled for business all the time and stayed in hotels all the time, and that I would book it for him since I worked for him and booked all of his travel. The evidence will show that Charles did in fact fly into Phoenix on Wednesday, July 10th, and stayed in the hotel that I booked for him. The evidence will show that Charles paid to fly my brother Adam Cox into Phoenix from Kansas on the same day, Wednesday, July 10th, 2019. The evidence will show that Charles planned to come to our Chandler home and pick up JJ and drive him to school on Thursday morning, July 11th, 2019. The evidence will also show you that Lauren's Life Academy opens its gates at 8:25 a.m. in the morning. And the evidence will show that Charles showed up at our Chandler residence around 7:30 in the rental car I booked for him on the morning of Thursday, July 11th, 2019. The evidence will show that Charles began texting with my brother, Adam Cox, before he entered our residence, and that Charles and Adam were discussing in their text communications that my other brother, Alex Cox, was at the residence. The evidence will show that on the morning of July 11th, that Tylee was asleep in her room and my brother Alex was asleep in the guest room. The evidence will show that when Charles entered the house, only JJ and I were awake and present. The evidence will show that after we put JJ in the rental car, that Charles came back into the residence to receive his phone, leaving JJ in the front seat of the rental car with the engine running. He was 7 years old. The evidence will show that Charles began to scream at me when I refused to hand him his phone.
How?
The evidence will show that Charles' screaming woke up Tylee and Alex. The evidence will show that Tylee came out of her room with a bat to protect me, her mother, from her stepfather, Charles Vallow.
Oh dear.
The evidence will show that Tylee and Charles fought over the bat, and that after a struggle over the bat, Tylee fell onto the ground, and Charles lifted up the bat to hit Tylee with the bat. The evidence will show that Alex then intervened to protect Tylee from being hit with the bat. He did not have a gun. He was not wearing a shirt. He was pulling up his jeans because he just woke up and came into the room where he heard the screaming. The evidence will show that Alex and Charles got into a physical struggle for the bat and fell onto the ground. The evidence will show that Tylee, who was on the ground, was lifted up by me and sent outside to get away from the struggle and to protect JJ, who was still in the running car, in the rental car in the driveway. The evidence will show that after this struggle on the ground between Charles and Alex, that Charles prevailed with the bat and began to come towards me with the bat as I ran away from him into the kitchen. The evidence will show that at some point while I was running away from Charles, who was chasing me with the bat, that Alex apparently retrieved his gun. The evidence will show that I ran outside to the children and that Alex shot Charles in self-defense. The evidence will show that Tylee and I had both run outside without shoes. The evidence will show that JJ was still in the front seat of the rental car with the engine running and struggling to get out of the car. Tylee was trying to keep him in. The evidence will show that Tylee and I got into the rental car with JJ and drove away. The evidence will show you that I drove the children away from the residence towards JJ's school. Can I grab a tissue?
Yes.
The evidence will show that I drove the children through the Burger King drive-thru that Charles had promised JJ. The evidence will show that we continued to drive towards JJ's school and that the gate was not yet open at JJ's school. So we drove a block west of the school to a Walgreens where I ran in to purchase flip-flops for Tylee and myself so that we could walk JJ into school on the hot pavement. The evidence will show that Tylee and I returned directly to our residence where we met with police in our driveway. The evidence will show that we were spoken to by the Chandler police officers. And the evidence will show that Tylee and I were told by the Chandler police detectives that Charles had passed away. The evidence will show that we were put into a police van and driven to the Chandler Police Department. The evidence will show that Alex was taken by police in a police car to the Chandler Police Department, and that we were all three separated into interrogation rooms and we were each interviewed. The evidence will show that next, Tylee and I were brought back together into a room at the Chandler Police Department and were introduced to a victim's advocate who was very kind to us. The evidence will show that after speaking to the victim's advocate, that Tylee, Alex, and myself were put back into the police van and driven back to our residence.
Great point.
We were directed by the Chandler detectives to take the rental car and return later to the residence after we picked up JJ from school. The evidence will show that we did as instructed by the Chandler detectives. The evidence will show that we drove to Alex's residence where we attended to the wound on the back of his head. The evidence will show that Alex was then contacted by the Chandler detectives to return to the residence so that Alex could walk them through the events that occurred with the detectives at the residence. The evidence will show that Alex, Tylee, and I did return to the residence as instructed. And the evidence will show that Alex entered into the residence with Detective Moffett, but that Tylee and I were met by Detective Inkland in the front yard. The evidence will show that at the time, Detective Inkland asked Tylee and myself if we had Charles' cell phone. Tylee retrieved Charles' cell phone from the rental car and gave it to Detective Inkland at 3:11 p.m. on July 11th, 2019. And at that time, Charles' phone was placed in the custody of Chandler police detectives. The evidence will show that Detective Inkland asked us if we knew the passcode on Charles' phone, which Tylee proceeded to give to Detective Inkland. The evidence will show that Tylee and I left the residence to pick up JJ from school, while Alex remained at the residence with the detectives. The evidence will show that by the time Tylee, JJ, and I returned to the residence, that all police, EMS, CSI, and detectives were gone from the residence and only Alex remained. The evidence will show that the next day, I contacted Chandler Police to inform them that Charles' belongings were still at the hotel. I asked the detective if I should go get them, and I was told that they would take care of it. The evidence will show that I asked the detectives, what should we do next? And they directed us that they would contact us in about 3 weeks after their supervisor passed off their reports and Alex could go to the police station and retrieve his gun. The evidence will show that the last thing I heard from Chandler Police Department until June of 2021, 2 years later, when I received a grand jury indictment from them for this alleged crime. The evidence will show that Chandler Police treated this incident as self-defense.
I'm going to object to that.
The objection sustained. The jury
All
should
right,
disregard
number
that
two.
last statement.
The evidence will show you that my brother, Alex Cox, passed away on December 12th, 2019, almost exactly 5 months to the day after Charles, my husband, passed away. The evidence will show that Alex passed away from a blood clot in his lung.
Objection again.
Okay, number three.
I'll sustain the objection. It's not relevant for this matter.
The evidence will show you that I am the only person being charged with this crime.
That's
I'm
true.
going to object to the relevance of that.
Oh, fuck.
Sustained.
As the state has mentioned, they're alleging that insurance money was my motive. Social Security
I
was
don't
my
know what that
motive.
sounded, guys.
Spouses having insurance policies is not a crime. Collecting Social Security is not a crime. Self-defense is not a crime. A family tragedy is not a crime. It's a tragedy. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, the state can call its first witness.
Thank you. If I may go get him.
I'm curious who the first witness is. I don't plan on covering the witnesses now. We're going to do that later, but I want to see who it is. It's going to be Kay. It might be Kay. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to put my money on Kay with talking witness. So 4 objections. I guessed 3. Candace guessed 5, I believe, and I think I guessed 6. So I was under. So we are live, which is why I didn't pause it. So we're going to talk about these opening statements here in just a second. But I didn't want to get behind the live party. By the way, officially, you're asking about the Adelson case. I'm covering that as well, and I do have a playlist for that. But we're not going to get into that now. That's another complicated one. This one's enough. So. Adelson case is 14 years in the making.
All right, sir, you're going to come up
Oh,
right
okay,
here.
okay.
My clerk will swear you in right here.
I like this judge.
And your first name?
I-R-W-I.
Thank you.
Ooh.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give
Oh,
is
wow.
the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
All right, you're going to have a seat up here.
He might be the landlord.
Sir, would you please tell the jury your name?
My name's Sergeant Erwin Worsbicky. I work for the Chandler Police Department.
How long have you worked for the
Hi.
Chandler Police Department?
June will be 10 years.
Did you have any prior law enforcement experience?
I
10
bet this is the dude who we were just watching interviewing Alex. And remember when I was like, what was his name? I didn't catch it. I bet it looks like him.
Years in Illinois.
We'll watch a second of this.
Back on July 11th of 2019, what were your duties at that time?
I was working as a patrol officer, I believe in beat 18,
And what were your hours?
Maybe not.
0600 to 1600,
Is that 6 a.m.?
6 a.m. to 4 p.m. Yes.
Thank you. Were you dispatched to a residence at 5531 South Four Peaks Place in Chandler, Maricopa County, Arizona?
Yes, ma'am.
So he was the
And what
first
were
one
you
on the
dispatched
scene.
for?
It was a shooting.
Were you the first on the scene when you arrived?
I
What
was,
did you
ma'am.
see? Okay. What were you wearing at the time?
I was in full patrol uniform.
Does the Chandler Police Department back then, did they have body worn camera?
They did.
And can you describe where that was and how that works?
I believe back then I wore it on my left shoulder.
Okay. And how does it get activated?
You have to press a button and it'll turn it on.
Does it
That's what she said?
normally record audio?
Yes.
Oh my God.
And
I wanna
did
watch
you have that on and did you activate it when you arrived to this scene?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You might watch him if we can.
Were there other
They're
officers
going
on
through this
scene
quickly.
at some point when you got there?
After I arrived, yes.
And you're saying it's 760, so I pulled the printer to see if I could get.
What the fuck?
Sorry about that.
What other officers arrived on scene?
Right after I arrived, Officer Krautheim arrived.
Can you describe to us sort of what happened as you get to the scene? How did you and Officer Krautheim handle the situation?
When I was getting out of the car, I believe
I'm going to pause this real quick and then we will catch up on 1.25 speed. I just wanted to go over some of my notes real quick and we'll talk about it more in detail tonight. I just wanted to go over my notes real quick from Lori's opening. So a couple things I thought were noteworthy. Like the fact that she pointed out that she was eligible for more life insurance money than Charles. Why did she do that? So she said 2 million for her, 1 million for him. She's trying to point out that if either of them had an incentive to kill each other for money, he would have been the one with the incentive. And why does that matter? She's trying to portray him like he was violent, right? Is it going to go over with the jury? Probably not. But, you got to give her points. I mean, honestly, compared to the other pro se defendants, so far, she's far and away in the lead, my book. It'll be interesting to see how she does cross-exam, guys. That's going to be a lot harder than the opening statement. She's going to have to cross all these state witnesses, and that's going to be so fucking exciting. The next thing I have a note here is she said about the bat that he was right-handed if he was using a bat. I'm surprised the state didn't object to that because they were very emphatic about the fact that he was left-handed. And, she said the evidence will show a billion times. I don't know what evidence she's going to have to support that he would use the bat right-handed, but she did say there would be evidence that would support that, which is just really interesting, right? Because that's one of those things that's like, seems like either it's one or the other, right? Like there's no real gray area there, I would think. So that'll be interesting. The next thing I have a note here for, yes, the part where she said that Adam was also coming to visit on July 10th. I don't think that that is true, but the state didn't object. Again, we will hear from Adam. But the reason she brought that up was because she's wanting to get out there the fact that she didn't just lure Alex out there to kill Charles because she had booked, flights or whatever for both of her brothers, right? So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And then the other thing here is the part about Charles yelling. Again, I don't know how the state didn't object to this one. She said the evidence will show that Charles was yelling, and then I only wrote Charles was yelling. I think it was like Charles was yelling at her or whatever. The thing is like, first of all, there's hearsay, but second of all, the only people who could testify to that are dead, except for her, and she can't testify to that. So I don't know how evidence would show that. So that's an interesting one. And the other last little thing I wanted to say really quick here is the timeline wise that so on November 24th, 2019, Chad gave Alex the patriarchal blessing. JJ was killed in late September of 2019, right? So November 24th, that's when Chad gave Alex the patriarchal blessing. Right after that, they left for Hawaii to get married because I guess they felt like their job was done. They could just have fun, and there we go. And then here's what's so interesting is that Alex died on December 12th, 2019. And so, I know that it was attributed to blood clots and high blood pressure, but everything all seemed really sus about that to me with the timing of it. And here's the other thing. The day before his death, Alex was informed by Lori and Chad that Tammy's body was going to be exhumed the day before. So it's very interesting. And I saved a screenshot of that timeline so we can refer back to it. So that was what I wanted to note. And now we'll catch a little bit of this. Again, we're going to cover again tonight. We're going to recap. They're short. They're moving through this really quickly. So we will watch again the opening statements and all the rest of the witnesses. I don't think they'll be able to get through that many today since it's already after the lunch break. And so it's 3 hours earlier, plus they're doing like a half-hour delay. So anyway, but okay, so now we're going to just catch up here on 1.25 to get up to speed. Not that we're that far behind. Okay.
Gentleman that called in was still on the phone, and we advised dispatch to tell him to come out with nothing in his hands.
It's huge.
Except his phone.
He's very
As
big.
he opened up or came out the front door, I started giving him commands. That was what I wanted him to do.
So you're talking with dispatch. Is that the same as 911?
Yeah, it's the same dispatch center.
So is the person who's talking to the 911 person then just relaying information to you?
Yes.
So you're able to tell that person, tell dispatch to tell the person to come out.
Yes.
Can you describe for us the person's demeanor as they're first exiting?
He was very nonchalant, very compliant with us.
Okay. You said he still had his phone?
Yes.
Do you recall if his other hand was up?
I do not recall.
Okay. Do you recall where he came out from the house?
He came out the front door.
Okay. When he exited the house, what did you guys have him do?
I gave him commands to come towards us and then have a seat on the curb.
Okay. So there's just two of you officers still at this point?
Yes.
What did you do at this point?
I decided to go check for anybody that was injured inside and clear the house to make sure there was nobody else in there.
Okay. What did Officer Krautheim do?
I believe he started speaking to the gentleman that we had come out the house.
So he stayed outside
Yes.
and you went into the house?
Yes, ma'am.
When you talk about clearing the house, can you tell us what that means? What do you do?
We just wanted to make sure that if anyone needed aid rendered to them, we could render aid to them, or if there are any more suspects in the residence, that we could try to apprehend them.
Does that mean that you walked through the entire house?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And all that's when your body cam is on?
Yes, ma'am.
When you first entered that house, can you describe for us what you saw when you walked in that front door?
Yeah, initially when I walked in, it opened up into like a day room or something like that. And just off to the right, I saw somebody laying on the ground, motionless.
Did you notice anything about that room?
It was empty.
So no furniture?
No furniture. Yeah, it was just an empty room.
The person that you saw to the right, male or female?
Male.
And can you describe how you saw him laying on the ground?
Yeah, he was laying on his back, I believe with both of his hands to his side, motionless. And then I went over to him to check his pulse.
Is that standard for police to check the welfare of any potential victims?
Yes.
When you checked the pulse, did you find one?
No.
Did you notice anything else about this victim?
Yeah, I noticed that there were 2 apparent gunshot wounds to his chest area. And there was blood pooling in like his kind of like neck collar area.
Did he appear to still be alive to you?
No,
Um, As part of your job, both with your prior experience in Illinois and your experience here in Arizona, have you seen deceased people before?
yes, ma'am.
Did you think this person was dead?
Yes, ma'am.
If you didn't think he was dead, are police trained to do CPR?
Yes, ma'am. We're all certified to,
Would you have
Yeah.
done that if you believed that would have helped him?
absolutely.
So even though a person appears deceased to you, is fire still called out to check on them?
Yes.
Why is that?
They go through their own process and procedures,
Uh-huh.
and I believe they usually give the official time of death.
Did you notice anything else in that
What
room
about
where
the
that
checking the armpits?
male was lying?
I can't think of anything right now, no.
Do you recall seeing any projectiles on the ground near the victim?
Objection, leading.
Whoa,
It's a yes or no
how
question.
is that leading? Lori,
I believe I did, yes.
When
should we
you
do an,
walked in the
should we
house
do an,
after
oh my God. Oh my
you
God.
saw
Should we
this
do an
male
objection
on the
counter
ground?
for Lori when she objects? Oh, there's the name. I'm glad they put the name up there. Should we do an objection counter for when Lori objects? She doesn't know what leading
Did you
is.
continue through the house?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that to clear it?
Yes.
And will paramedics or fire come in if you haven't cleared the house yet?
Usually, no.
So they want to make sure it's okay as well?
Yes.
After you cleared the house, did you, or as you were clearing the house, did you ever locate any weapons?
Yes, I believe we located a firearm in one of the back bedrooms.
Did you touch that in any way?
I don't recall.
Okay. After you cleared the house, did fire enter?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did fire do?
They began to try to render aid to the victim.
By the time fire came in, were other officers now on scene?
Yes.
Were you still wearing and recording with your body cam?
Yes, ma'am.
Does the body cam, you told us that it's on your shoulder. Does it always show where you're looking?
No.
So your eyes or your head can be turned to a different direction than what the camera is actually
Yeah,
showing?
if I was turning talking to the judge, my camera would be facing the crowd.
I want to show you a video.
Okay, this is what I wanted to see.
And if I can have my paralegal bring that up and have him identify it.
I guess I'll go ahead and include the objections from opening statements. I'm updating the thing.
And so if you could just look at that and let me know if you recognize that as your body cam minus the audio of it.
Okay, they're going to get some evidence, so we'll just go through.
Do you recognize that as you in it?
Yes, ma'am.
And you have previously watched that?
Yes, ma'am.
Here we go.
Is that what we see here happening?
Yes.
And is fire also?
Sorry.
That you continue to clear the rest of the house?
Yes, ma'am.
We are live now. So y'all can see we're live.
So what do we see there?
It appears that the fire is rendering aid to the victim or attempting to.
Were you walking around trying to find identification for the individual on the ground?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to ever find an identification for him?
I was not.
So no wallet laying around,
No.
no ID in his pocket?
I didn't check his pockets, but no, I don't think fire found one.
So you're kind of talking with them to let them know who this is as well?
Yes,
Because they're documenting it.
yes.
Erwin Wurzbisky. Is that how you said it? Polish, I bet.
And is that the with the phone from
Yes, ma'am.
one that dispatch and 911 told to come out?
Yes.
When you were interacting with him there, what was his demeanor like?
He was extremely calm.
You told us that you were looking for the wallet for this individual. Did it seem unusual to you that you couldn't find one?
I wouldn't say it was unusual. I didn't know if he lived there or not, so I just kind of looked around to see if there was anything laying around.
He did a good job picking out a shirt that would really bring out his eye color too. He really is a big dude, though. Holy mackerel.
Is this you still trying to see if there's anything in the residence that might be related to that individual?
I think I was just giving Officer Cohen a recap of what I already went and looked through.
And I've shown defense counsel or defendant exhibits 3 and 4. I have a paralegal and goes to up to the officer to review as well. Do you recognize those as sort of screenshots of 2 different views during your body cam footage?
Yes.
State will move to admit exhibits 3 and 4.
Any objection?
No objection.
3 and 4 admitted.
And if I may publish them. So in this photo, when you were looking at it, were you able to see here's where you are checking to see the pulse of this individual?
Yes, ma'am.
And did this also reflect what you had talked about of the blood pooling that had run towards his neck area?
Yes.
Exhibit 4. Is this sort of when we first see you walk back in and we see fire working on the individual.
Yes.
You told us that when that individual who was on the call with 911 came out, that you observed the phone with him. He was kind of holding it.
Yeah.
Did you ever see any other phone in the house as you were looking around? Anything obvious laying around?
I don't recall, no. I don't believe I did.
No phone on the ground near the deceased male?
Not that I recall, no.
After you had cleared the house, allowed fire to enter, and other officers were arriving, were you tasked with going out to put up some crime scene tape?
Yes, ma'am.
What does that mean?
It's just tape that keeps the general public out, keeps the media out, so we have a secure scene and it doesn't get tainted by anybody or anything.
So that included both the house and some of the street.
Yes, ma'am.
Did that sort of end your involvement?
Yes.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
All right, cross-examination.
Here we go.
Sergeant, where's Vicky? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I like to get that right. Okay. You said that the individual exiting the house was nonchalant. Is that correct?
I don't know if I used those words, but he seemed very calm, yes.
Very calm.
Yes.
Is that the same thing to you as nonchalant?
I wouldn't use that word, so I would say he looked very calm and unbothered.
But you said nonchalant a minute ago.
Oh,
I don't
Lori, you can't
recall saying
testify. It could be objective. Oh my God.
Does everyone act the same in a stressful situation that you've experienced? No? Are you qualified to give someone a psychological evaluation?
Oh my God. I would be objecting.
You put your hand on my husband's neck for checking for a pulse. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what you did when you first came in?
Yes.
Did you perform CPR?
No,
No. Why not?
because it was apparent to me that he was deceased.
And that's not your protocol
To what?
to perform CPR until fire comes in?
Not if it's going to make it even worse because they had apparent gunshot wounds to the chest.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if I start pumping on his chest, it's going to start spewing blood out of his chest even at a more rapid pace.
So when the 911 operator was telling my brother to do that, that same thing would happen?
All depends on when the call came into dispatch.
But I'm saying if you're doing CPR on someone with a gunshot wound in the chest, on the chest.
Could, yes.
Yeah, okay. And you said something else. You said fire gives official time of death. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what was that time of death? Do you know?
I do not recall.
And you cleared the house before fire came in. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you were looking for some kind of identification?
When I
Yes.
cleared the house,
Yes.
I was looking for other potential victims and or suspects.
Okay. But you were told on the phone that no one else was in the house but Alex. Is that correct?
I don't recall if I was told that or not.
Okay. Do you have any crime scene investigation experience?
Just my 20 years of experience as a police officer.
We use red Solo cups.
And you
All that.
said something about, and this is just for me to understand, you said something about the casings being to the left of him or to the right of him?
I didn't say they were to the left or to the right.
Oh,
Did you say west or east?
No.
Oh, sorry, that was my interpretation.
I bet it was Lauren.
Can you tell me what the weapon was that you found?
It was a handgun.
Was it a 45?
Don't recall.
Okay. Could you tell what direction the bullet came from?
Based off the way the body was laying, I could assume it came from where his feet were at.
Near the feet?
Mhm.
Did you see the projectile that was in the baseboard?
I don't recall if I saw that or not.
You said he did not appear alive, that you already thought that he was deceased. Is that correct, when you entered into the house?
Yes.
And what time was that?
I believe I was dispatched to the call at 8:41. So I mean, if I was going to make a guess on what time I walked into the house, I would say I was probably at the residence within 10 minutes,
So around 8:51 perhaps?
possibly, yes.
Okay. And then when fire took over, is that the normal protocol for fire to take over and do the CPR?
Yes,
And so you didn't do CPR, but they did do the CPR. Is that correct?
yes,
On top of the gunshot wound? Is that normal protocol?
I don't know what their protocol.
I mean, I have to say, she's
I'm just
actually
asking
making good- she is making a good point here, which is that
I wouldn't think to do that either.
that she is making a good point with the CPR thing. It's not gonna matter at all, but like these are some good points that that they wanted Alex to do CPR or whatever, despite the chest wounds, and fire and rescue did it despite the chest wounds, but he didn't see it fit to do it. So I mean, credit where credit's due, I guess. No way. Oh, sorry. I thought it was unpaused. Sorry, guys.
And then you said that you went
Oh, he did.
outside to
He did.
put up the crime scene tape. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So after you cleared the house, you left and went to the front yard?
Yes,
And then you were there for how long at the residence before you left?
I couldn't give you a time.
Did you stay for a while, or was that the end of your job there?
I don't recall. It was a long time ago. I have no idea how long I was actually on scene for.
And who is your direct supervisor?
I
Like-
believe that day was Sergeant Nocella.
I'm sorry, what was the last name?
Nocella?
Okay. And what contact did you have with Detective Moffett that day?
I don't know if I had any with him on scene.
Okay, what about Detective England, perhaps?
I may have briefly spoke to her while I was on scene.
Okay, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times?
I couldn't tell you a number.
Okay. And then when you have to report to your superior before you left the scene?
He was on scene, I would imagine.
Nocella? Is that
Yes.
what you said? Okay. And then you don't know what time you left, but you arrived at approximately 8:51?
Give or take, yes.
And then did you see me arrive at the scene?
I think as I was leaving, yes.
So approximately around the time that I arrived, you were leaving?
I don't know if I left when you arrived, but I was on my way out of the crime scene as far as I know.
Okay. And then you said something about 2 wounds. Is that correct?
Yes,
And how did you see the 2 wounds through the shirt?
just was an observation that I made when I saw him laying on the ground.
So did you see 2 holes in the shirt?
I'm not sure exactly what I saw when I was there, but I could see that there were 2 apparent gunshot wounds to his chest.
And then I'm sure, well, I won't speak for you. So when they began CPR, they did open his shirt.
She has to
Is
get
that
used to
correct?
asking
I
questions.
have no idea.
Because when you walked by, his shirt was open.
Official, make sure that you're on.
Objection to question.
Yeah, please ask questions only.
Right. Official, make sure
Did
you're on
you
live chat, not talk chat.
discuss this case with Sergeant Nocella?
I don't believe so. I would imagine he was on scene and he got briefed by the detectives.
He got briefed by the detectives? Is that what you said?
That's
I
what
would
he
imagine,
said.
yes.
Okay. And then have you spoken to the case agent on this case? How many times would you say?
Who's the case agent?
Oh, Detective Duncan. That's
Detective
my understanding. Mhm.
I mean, I've spoken to him many times in my career.
Regarding this case, how many times do you think you've spoken to Detective Duncan?
I couldn't even put a number on it. I would say very few.
Very few?
Mhm.
Like, how many would you guess?
I would say maybe 5 times.
5 times. Thank you. And would that be in-person kind of discussions or?
Yeah, I wouldn't even say they were discussions, probably just in passing.
Okay. So how many times have you emailed with Detective Duncan concerning this case?
Objection to relevance.
Overruled, you can answer.
Yeah.
If you know.
I have no idea.
What about text messages?
She gonna try to.
No idea.
Phone calls?
Ma'am, I have no idea.
Okay. And your report that you wrote about this, about how long after the incident did you make your report?
I was done by the end of my work shift,
Mhm.
4 o'clock.
Iowa, that's funny.
And then did you ever make any revisions to that report?
I don't believe so.
So you left the scene approximately sometime in the morning, and by 4 o'clock that day you had written your report. Is
Yes,
that correct? And you've never changed anything on your report?
not that I recall, ma'am.
And the report is exactly as you left it when did you review it for this testimony today?
Yes,
And it was exactly the same as when you wrote it at 4 PM on July 11th?
I don't know if I wrote it at 4 PM. It was
Or
done
by 4 PM?
It appears to be, yes.
Okay. Thank you, that's all I have.
All right,
Wow.
redirect.
Wow. Wow. This is so crazy, guys. This is surreal to me.
Sergeant, you were asked about the shooter's demeanor.
Wow, wow, wow.
Were you just telling us what you observed?
Yes,
What did you observe?
Oh, there's the bat, guys. Do you see
I
the
just
bat?
observed him very calm
Hang on.
and collected after.
Y'all, this is like the suitcase in a way, like the Sarah Boone case. There's the bat. Y'all see it on the left there? There it is.
I just observed him very calm and collected after just shooting somebody.
And that's both seeing him come out as well as having some interaction with him on the curb.
Yes, ma'am.
When a person is been shot and you check for a pulse and you believe they are deceased, as a police officer, are you supposed to touch the body?
No,
Is the body basically a crime scene?
yes,
Based upon your training and experience, did you believe that the victim was deceased?
yes, ma'am.
Do fire have EKG, heart monitors and things that they use to determine if maybe you missed a pulse?
Yes, ma'am.
When you talked about giving CPR, if an individual is now a crime scene, would giving CPR to that deceased person change the crime scene?
Yes,
And so as someone who believed the person was deceased, you did not want to modify or change the crime scene?
correct.
You were asked about the gun. Is the gun part of the crime scene?
Yes,
Were you responsible for processing the crime scene?
no,
Why didn't you go in there and pick it up and start handling it?
because I didn't want to alter where it was laying when he got done using it.
You were asked a lot about when 911 was called, when you were dispatched. This was a few years ago,
Several, yes.
2019.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there something called a CAD report that documents when 911 was called, when you were dispatched, when you arrived, and even when you left?
Yes, ma'am.
Would looking at the CAD report help refresh your recollection as to when those events occurred?
Yes.
If I may have my paralegal provide me with a copy of the CAD report. As a police officer who is one of the first on,
Didn't get the answer. Hold on.
It's 5:31 PM.
Yeah.
as a police officer who is one of the first on scene, do you provide briefing or information to your sergeant or the detectives on scene as to what you saw, observed, and did?
If they ask me directly, yes, somebody will brief them that's on scene.
But you have to provide somebody that information to then provide to the detectives?
Yes.
Why is it done that way?
Because usually a supervisor is going to want to know what's going on and what we did, just so the detectives know exactly what they're walking into.
So for instance, if you had to move the gun, they would want to know that, right?
Yes,
Or if you had moved the body, they would want to know that too, right?
yes,
And if you had found any evidence, would they want to know that as well?
absolutely.
And so is that what you would have to do that day when you are speaking to sergeant or detectives?
Yes.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Does any member of the jury have a question for this witness? If so, please write it on the provided form. I'm not seeing any questions come down. You can step down, sir.
Oh, what a shame. I love jury questions.
All right, the state can call its next witness.
Thank you. And if I may go get it.
I agree, Candace, little girl voice is gross. Yeah, and by the way, I'm happy to answer any questions I can too about the law if you guys have questions. I want to know who's next. Was the idea? Go teach my violence. Who's next? Oh, there's her investigator to the left. I think the cop might be a giant, though. Yes. How come the state doesn't have their witnesses ready?
All right, go ahead and have a seat over here to my left.
Sir, would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
I'm Robert Krautheim.
And where do you currently work?
I currently work at the Sandra Day O'Connor Federal Courthouse
Huh.
Back in 2019, where were you working?
as a Chandler police officer in Chandler,
Wow,
Arizona.
look at his outfit.
How long did you work
Look at his
for the
outfit.
Chandler Police Department?
Wow.
25 years.
When did you retire?
What is?
About 3 years ago, February.
Okay, hang on. Wow,
When you
what is-
were working
hold on.
there,
What is on his tie, guys? What the heck is that? And what an interesting choice. Wow.
in July of 2019, what were your duties at that time?
I was a patrol officer. I was responding to calls for service.
Okay. And do you recall what your shift was at that time?
It was a day shift. I think I start my shift at 6 and end at 4.
Were you working patrol for Chandler Police Department on July 11th of 2019 at about 8:36 a.m.?
I was.
Were you dispatched to 5531 South Four Peaks Place in Chandler, Maricopa County, Arizona?
Yes.
What were you dispatched for?
A shooting that had just occurred.
Based upon the information that was, well, let me ask you this. When you are arriving to a scene, do you get information relayed to you about this call?
I do.
Why is that?
The call taker is asking the person on the phone what's going on, where it is, who's there, just basic information. And then dispatch relays that information to me as I'm driving to the call for service.
Is that so you have a better idea about what you're walking into?
Yes, it's on a computer, but verbally, the stuff that's really pertinent before I arrive is just verbally done over the air.
So when you were arriving on the scene, did you think this shooting had just occurred?
I did.
When you got to this 5531 South Four Peaks, were there any other officers on scene yet?
Yeah, Officer Wiz was there.
Is that Officer Wiersbe?
Yes, I'm sorry, I apologize.
What were you wearing?
Patrol outfit, basically a patrol uniform, police uniform, body-worn camera.
And back then, where was your body-worn camera?
At the time, it was a lipstick camera, so part of it was here, but the camera's actually on my right shoulder.
Okay. And was that on and recording as you sort of arrived on scene and while you were present there?
Yeah, I started recording while I was driving there.
Okay. When you arrived, did you know whether or not the 911 caller was still on the phone?
Yeah, she was still on the phone.
And when you are talking with dispatch, did you arrange to have this person come out, or did Officer Wiersbe do that?
Yes, dispatch advised him to come out of the home without anything and hands up in the air. That's kind of standard.
And did he comply with that?
He did.
What exit did he come out of?
At the front door.
Okay. Can you describe sort of his appearance and demeanor as you observed him coming out of the house?
His clothes were clean. He was calm, not emotional at all. Different than what I would have anticipated.
When he first exited, did you notice any injuries to him?
He was holding, it was a white rag at the time. It was just kind of red and white. He was holding on the back of his head.
When he first exited or later?
As he's coming out of the house.
So guys, I hate to say it, I've waited as long as I could. I do have to go teach my lessons. Interesting. I love that they call him Officer Wiz. I think that's hilarious. So, oh, what are you all saying about orchids? Oh, you sent it. Oh, cool. By the way, for anyone who is ever in a situation where they're seeing orchids at a store or whatever, and they're like curious, like, you know, is this a good one to buy or whatever? I've made a number of videos that talk about what to look for, but if you ever have one specific that you're like, I don't know, this one's really cool, but like, I don't know, you can always send me pictures of it or a video or whatever, because odds are if you leave and come back, it might still be there. You're always welcome to do that as well in the Discord. So I will definitely take a look. It probably won't be till later because I'm going to be teaching right up until I go live again. So that's interesting. I mean, they are not outdoor plants. Unless people have them on a covered porch, you shouldn't be seeing them outside because they can't get rained on. And they don't grow they don't grow in the wild. Like they grow in the wild in Thailand and like maybe surrounding countries. So I hope people don't have orchids in your neighborhood official unless they're on porches with a covered roof. That's okay. That's all good, Iowa. That is all good. That's all good. So yeah. So I was going to say, I feel like my brain is like, I have so much to say here. Like this is a lot. So I'm still wondering about this tie. So what we will do tonight, guys, I think what we will do is, we'll watch I don't know that we'll watch the states. Maybe we'll watch both. I'll let you guys pick. We'll definitely watch Lori's opening statement again. And then we will pick up with this witness and the rest of the witnesses. And then we may also go ahead and finish watching Alex's interview. And then I do also have another video. It's Charles's landlord calling the police department and stuff too. So that is what we will be doing tonight when I finish my lessons. So I feel like there was something else I was going to say too, and I can't remember now, but yes. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Orchids are real finicky. That's the only plant I know though. But that is interesting. A green wedding dress. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Philippines. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That would make sense, Philippines. But I hope to see you all back here later. And yeah, other than that, you know, for those of you guys who have questions about other cases, looking at you, official, especially with the Adelsons that you mentioned, the dentist in Florida, got playlists for that. I'm covering everything with that as well. So, so you're very welcome, guys. Love y'all. Y'all are awesome. Oh, let me pull my banner down. Y'all are awesome, and I hope to see all of you guys later. But for now, squirrel out.